Nupad Paramahansa Padavajikashara Sotar Shishima Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBD Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikachara Stotar Shishima Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Gauri Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Gopadan Ki Jai. Vrindavandam Ki Jai. Navadip Mayapurdam Ki Jai. Ganga Jamunamai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai, Brihat Madanga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Gurun Garanga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, Chapter 4, Text 17. Tapashvino dana para yasasvino. Tapashvino dana para yasasvino. Manashvino mantra vida sumangala. Manashvino mantra vida sumangala. Shemam navendanti vinayadarpanam. Shemam navendanti vinayadarpanam. Tasmai subhadra shravase namo namaha. Tasmai subhadra shravase namo namaha. Tapashvino dana para yashashvino. Manashvino mantra vedasumangala. Shemam navendanti vinayadarpanam. Tasmai subhadra shravase namo namaha. Others, please. Vaishnavis. Try it again. Tapashvino dana parayashashvino. Okay. Tapashvinaha, the great learned sages. Dhanaparaha, the great performer of charity. Yashashvinaha, the great worker of distinction. Manashvinaha, the great philosophers or mystics. Mantravida, the great chanter of the Vedic hymns. Sumangalaha, strict followers of Vedic principles. Shemam, fruitful result. Na, never. Vindati, attain. Bina, without. Yadarpanam, dedication. Tasmai, unto him. Subhadra, auspicious. Shravase, hearing about him. Namaha, my obeisances. Namaha, again and again. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the all-auspicious Lord Sri Krishna again and again, because the great learned sages, the great performers of charity, the great workers of distinction, the great philosophers and mystics, the great chanters of the Vedic hymns, and the great followers of Vedic principles cannot achieve any fruitful result without dedication of such great qualities to the service of the Lord. Purport. Advancement of learning, a charitable disposition, political, social, or religious leadership of human society. That's what's being referred to as the great workers of distinction. Philosophical speculations, the practice of the yoga system, expertise in the Vedic rituals, and all similar high qualities in man serve one in the attainment of perfection only when they are employed in the service of the Lord. Without such dovetailing, all such qualities become sources of trouble for people in general. Everything can be utilized either for one's own sense gratification or in the service of one other than oneself. There are two kinds of self-interest also, namely personal selfishness and extended selfishness. But there is no qualitative difference between personal and extended selfishness. Theft for personal interest or for the family interest is of the same quality, namely criminal. A thief pleading not guilty because of committing theft, not for personal interest, but for the interest of society or country, has never been excused by the established law of any country. People in general have no knowledge that the self-interest of a living being attains perfection only when such an interest coincides with the interest of the Lord. For example, what is the interest of maintaining body and soul together? One earns money for maintenance of the body, personal or social, but unless there is God consciousness, unless the body is being properly maintained to realize one's relation with God, all good efforts to maintain body and soul together are similar to the attempts of the animals to maintain body and soul together. The purpose of maintaining the human body is different from that of the animals. Similarly, advancement of learning, economic development, philosophical research, study in the Vedic literature, or even the execution of pious activities like charity, opening hospitals, and the distribution of food grains, should be done in relation with the Lord. The aim of all such acts and endeavors must be the pleasure of the Lord and not the satisfaction of any other identity, individual or collective. Some sit here, Haritosanam. Means the perfection is to please Hari. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 27, the same principle is confirmed where it is said that whatever we may give in charity, and whatever we may observe in austerity may be given over to the Lord or be done on his account only. The expert leaders of a godless human civilization cannot bring about a fruitful result in all their different attempts at educational advancement or economic development unless they are God conscious. And to become God conscious, one has to hear about the all-auspicious Lord as he is described in literature like the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Ganatamadam Dasha Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshura Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamupakaramayam Darati Swaparantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vijikam Vikamscha. Hey Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. So we've heard this before. This is not the first time we're hearing this message. The message that, human life is meant for understanding about our relationship with Krishna or God, and that everything that we have, we should try to dovetail in his service. We've heard this previously from Narada Muni, and now we're hearing it from Sukadev Goswami, and in the 7th canto we're going to hear it from Prahlad Maharaj, and maybe we heard it from Bhishma. Pretty much everybody, all the voices throughout the Bhagavatam in so many different words are giving us this same message. And Krishna, and from Krishna himself, we're hearing this same message. And it's this is what it's all about. Human life is meant, it's an opportunity, it's a special body, and it's meant for understanding our eternal relationship with God. There's that verse, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti Lata Beach, that after wandering throughout the universe, a living entity that's fortunate comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master, and in this way he gets the seed of devotional service. So by the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets Krishna, and then by the mercy of By the mercy of Krishna, one comes in contact with the bona fide spiritual master, and then by the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets Krishna. So that's like hand-picked. In other words, you come to the human form of life in hopes of that happening. Then you're really on the road back to perfection when that happens. But even before that, coming to human form of life is a real privilege. It's a privilege. There's so many souls. I mean, if you read earlier on in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2, Prabhupada says that the spirit soul, which is inside the gigantic banyan tree and the elephant, is also inside the microbic germ, millions and billions of which occupy a single inch of space. So elsewhere, it's described asankhya. You can't count. It's innumerable how many souls there are. Even right here, what to speak of throughout the entire creation. So to get a human body, there's 8 billion or whatever it is, 7 billion, 8 billion human beings on the planet Earth today. But that's nothing. That's nothing compared to how many souls there are in all sorts of different bodies scattered throughout the Earth, what to speak of the universe. So, getting the opportunity of human body, it's a privilege. And it's just like when analogy, like a kid and gets to a certain age, gets to go to school. It's meant for a purpose. That purpose is get an education, learn something. So when you get out, you can do something with what you learn. It's the same thing. Coming to human form of life is meant for a purpose. When you come to the human form, sure, there's so many different things you could do. When you're, a kid going to school, you can play sports, you can make friends, you could do this. But the real thing you're supposed to be doing is getting an education, learning something that you could use to support yourself, earn a living when you get out. So in the same way, in human form of life, there's so many different things that you can do. And it's mentioned here in this purport. You could be what does Sukadev Goswami say? You could be a learned sage. You could become a great worker of distinction. That's a politician or a religious leader or this or that. You could become a great giver of charity. It means like you could become a big business person, make a lot of money, and then be a great philanthropist or altruist or something like that. You could become a great philosopher, a mystic, or in Vedic times, a great chanter in Vedic mantras. Sure, you could do all those things. That's, but if you don't, it's just like, but if you don't pay attention to the most important thing is to excavate that connection, revive that awareness of who we really are, and, what our eternal relationship is with Krishna, then it's a big zero, right? Prabhupada gave that example right here in Los Angeles about the zeros. He said, in your country you have so many zeros, meaning someone like, for instance, being a philosopher, that's a zero, okay? Being, a mystic yogi, that's a zero. Being a great worker of distinction, that's a zero. But when you add 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, what do you get? 0. Unless you put a 1 in front of those zeros, you got nothing. So that's the point, that's being made here in this verse. You have to have Krishna in the picture. You have to have Krishna in the equation. Otherwise, it's all zero. So just like, the example of the kid going to school. He can make friends. He could play sports and be really good. He could learn how to play musical instruments. We were taught all these things. There's so many different, extracurricular activities, and you could excel at all of them. But if you don't learn what you're supposed to be learning there, then it's all a waste of time, like that. So it's the same thing. So human form of life is really, a great opportunity. It's a super special opportunity, and we got to remind ourselves of that. Well, we got to remind us. We have to remind others of that. That's a big part of the Krishna conscious movement, to remind others of that, and we have to remind ourselves of that at every moment, because the illusory energy is always trying to help us forget that. It's just, here you are. It's just like any, just eat, drink, and be merry tomorrow. But no, we have to constantly be reminding ourselves of what's going on here. The opportunity we have as human beings. And we have to devise and a method to do that, and then revise, and like that. We have to constantly be cultivating that through our sadhana, through our studying, and through just shastra chakshus. I'll give you an example of that. I try to do all those things. I'm trying to increase my Krishna consciousness by ratcheting down the sadhana, trying to always, am I chanting attentive rounds? Am I coming to the program? Am I reading Prabhupada's books? Am I trying to avoid offenses when I associate with the devotees, like that? And on top of that, am I trying to see Krishna everywhere, in everything? Because that's part of the program. I mean, in the Bhagavad Gita, in 7th chapter, Krishna says, Rasoham apso kunteya pravasmi sasmi sura. He says, I'm the light of the sun. I'm the taste and water. I'm the light of the sun and the moon. I'm the sound and ether. I'm the ability in man. I'm the intelligence of the intelligence. I'm the original fragrance of the earth. In other words, basically what Krishna is saying is, hey, okay, see me everywhere. I'm everywhere. Because, he's trying to help us develop our Krishna consciousness. We should, simultaneously be also doing that. We should be worshiping the deity and chanting but also that's good too. It's good to develop that awareness of Krishna, that Krishna is everywhere and in everything as well. A couple examples of that have just been brought to my attention. Lately, I've been chanting my rounds on the roof of the parking lot next to Trader Joe's. After experimenting with many different methods, at least at this moment, I'm feeling that one's the best. And so I got a pillar, it's kind of like a post, or it's hard to describe, where they have those metal things that they mark everything. So I'm sitting on top of one of those, and I'm facing the direction of the sunrise. And nobody comes up there, because it's the 5th floor, and they don't need to use that level. So it's very open, clean, and quiet. And I just sit there. And what I've observed is the same thing sort of happens every morning. I'll sit there, and usually when I get there, it's completely dark. And most mornings, I'm not feeling, I'm not on the transcendental platform, despite the fact that I've come to Mangalarti. I'm not really revved up yet. And so quite often I'll be sitting there and I'll just be feeling a little bit down, and like the mind is, making some noise, and you feel depressed. But invariably what happens is when there's that first light in the sky, dawn, for some people, I guess, what's it called? Brahma Muhurta is really what's supposed to do it for you, according to our scriptures. But for me, for some reason, dawn is really what turns me on. When that first light in the sky comes, without trying, it's not self-induced. I just sit there, I'm just chanting, and then I just start feeling like there's some hope. The light comes in the sky, it's getting nicer, and then you see what I call the first red. The sky lights up and it becomes reddish, and then it's really beautiful. And I just think to myself, wow, it's as I said, it's not even thinking, it's like it comes. There's something good behind all this. And even if I'm sitting up there and initially I'm feeling like a total atheist, when that starts happening, I'm just looking out there chanting and I'm thinking, no way. There's something good behind all this. And it's just kind of like coming up from within. There's something good behind all this. And so the point is that's Krishna. I take it. That's Krishna. Krishna is trying to help in every way. Krishna is trying to, I'll give you another example. Even when I eat a watermelon, to be honest with you, it reminds me of Krishna. Krishna is the best cook. Devotees or anybody, people try to do their things, and I guess they feel impotent if they don't put a lot of this and that and this and that. But nobody beats Krishna. You just open up if you get a good watermelon, for instance, it's like, wow, who could do that? It's just like the most perfect satisfaction. It tastes so good. It makes you feel so good. And I just always think, not just with watermelon, some of the different, Krishna's the best cook. Krishna's the best artist. Really, when I sit up there on the thing and I start chanting my rounds, once again, I don't try to think these thoughts just pop into my head. I remember when I was a kid, because I grew up in New York City. I went to the Hayden Planetarium a few times, and at one point the lights darken. You're sitting in a room there and you can see it, but then they darken the lights and they say, a voice comes, "The show is about to begin." And that's how I feel every morning, just at the dawn. Here's the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus used to have this saying, "The greatest show on earth." Now, it's not the greatest show on earth. The greatest show on earth takes place every morning, right outside your door. It's the sunrise. If you bother to watch it, that's the greatest show on earth. It's the greatest artistic show on earth. Just watching the sunrise with all the transformations of the colors and the clouds it's amazing. Krishna's the greatest artist. Krishna's the greatest artist. Krishna's the greatest musician. You go down to the beach and you hear just the waves coming in. If you just sit and relax, close your eyes, it's amazing. It's very relaxing. So, yeah, so we can see Krishna everywhere. We can see Krishna everywhere, and that's what we're supposed to be doing, because this is, as I said, the human form of life. This is the form of life. This is the opportunity to get out of the cycle of birth and death, to go back home, back to Godhead. And that's what Krishna is trying to do. He's trying to get us out of here. And that's his main program. And just, I don't know how I was inspired to revisit this, but there's this purport in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I remember this is one of the first purports I was attracted to, upon reading the Bhagavad Gita first time 47, almost 48 years ago now. And periodically I go back to it. But anyway, I've got to read you this few sentences here from this purport of chapter 13, text 23. It's a famous verse, Upadrasta Anumanta Cha. Yeah? So anyway, getting to the purport, Prabhupada says, yeah, sure. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and it was known as the Supersoul. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, I'm just going to skip ahead here. I'm looking in a different book, that's why I'm having, okay. Referring to the living entity, says, as long as he, referring to the living entity, is conditioned by the material energy, the Supreme Lord as his friend, the Supersoul, stays with him just to get him to return to the spiritual energy. The Lord is always eager to take him back to the spiritual energy. See, so that's pretty good if you stop and think about that. Actually, we're supposed to read Prabhupada's books, and we're also supposed to think about what we read. That's an important thing, too. I was just watching one of these Prabhupada, what's it called? Following Prabhupada by Yadavar, that series. And there was a memory of Shruti Kirti. He was saying on 3 different occasions, Prabhupada called him into his room, and he held up a book. One time was the Krishna book, one time was Bhagavad Gita, and I can't remember the other time. And he said, if you just read this one book, this happened 3 different times according to Shruti Kirti, if you just read this one book, your life will be perfect. And then Prabhupada paused and said, actually, you don't even have to read the whole book. If you just read this one chapter, your life will be perfect. And Shruti Kirti goes, yes, Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, actually, no, you don't even have to read the whole chapter. If you just read this one page, your life will be perfect. And Shruti Kirti was going, yes, Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, actually, you don't even have to read the whole page. One line. And Prabhupada took with his finger, and he's going, one line. And then finally Prabhupada said, if you just read this one word, your life will be perfect. He said, each of these words, they're coming from Krishna. That's according to Shruti Kirti, that's what Prabhupada said. So these all the words, all Prabhupada's books, it's all pregnant with spiritual potency. And that's what you want more than just read it. You want to read it and think about it and really kind of meditate on it. And then that's what evokes that spiritual inspiration. Right? Anyway, so these words here. So Prabhupada's saying, the Supreme Lord as his friend, the Supersoul, stays with him just to get him to return to the spiritual energy. So it's pretty good. It's a nice meditation to think that the Supreme Lord is my friend. Right there. That's a very encouraging thought. Prabhupada's saying it. We should remember that. The Supreme Lord is our friend. And what's he doing as our friend? He's staying with us and just to get us to return to the spiritual energy. It says here, is he just kind of doing it like, how would you say it, haphazardly, like, going through the motions? Well, no. The next sentence says he's always eager to take him back to the spiritual energy. But it says, but due to his minute independence, that's us, the individual entity is continually rejecting the association of spiritual light. And that's the cause of our material strife in this material. So we have to pray. This is a good prayer. We have to pray to Krishna. Krishna, please help me. Because I've just heard you're there with me as the Supersoul, as my friend. And your whole business in being there is you're trying to help me get out of this material world. So please help me stop continually rejecting the spiritual light, for God's sake. I don't know how long I've been doing this for, but I want to stop. I've had it. I've had it. It's enough. I want to stop continually rejecting the spiritual light. And as Prabhupada suggests, he says, The Lord, therefore, is always giving instruction from within and from without. From without, he gives instruction as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, and from within, he tries to convince the living entity that his activities in the material field are not conducive to real happiness. And this is in quotation marks. Prabhupada says, just give it up. This is Krishna speaking to the living entity, subliminally, intuitively, whatever. I mean, you don't hear these words, but this is what's going on. This is an important point. This is what's going on the whole time. For every second that you've been now in this human body in this lifetime, this message is Krishna is trying to communicate this through many different ways. And that message is, just give it up and turn your faith toward me. Then you will be happy. And he says, and then Prabhupada says, the intelligent person places his faith in the Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, begins to advance toward a blissful eternal life. So, yesterday I was thinking about this verse, and I rang up Judah Karma, and I asked him, I said, Prabhu, what does it mean? What is it like? In what way is Krishna saying to the living entity, just because we don't hear it, in what way is he saying, give it up and turn your faith to it? And he didn't even let me finish the question. He cut me off. He said, in every way. He said, in every way. He said, don't underestimate Krishna's energies, Krishna's potencies. Krishna's, for us, nothing's material for Krishna. The material energy, the spiritual energy, it's all spiritual energy. All Krishna, throughout, with all his different potencies, in every different which way, Krishna is trying to do this. Krishna is trying to communicate this message to the living entity. Just give it up and give it up. Give it up means give up this, inclination to continually reject the association of spiritual light and try to lord it over material nature. Give up that program. Give up that program. Turn your faith towards me, and you'll be happy. And Prabhupada says, therefore, a person who places faith in the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of God, it begins to advance toward a blissful eternal life of knowledge. So, but take an ordinary Joe, okay? Ordinary Joe doesn't know Paramatma or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how is ordinary Joe supposed to place his faith in Paramatma or the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Because ordinary Joe never even heard of him. What to speak, does he know anything about him? That's okay. That's okay, because in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada explains that intelligence is the form, direction of the Supersoul. Intelligence is the form, direction of the Supersoul. So call it conscience, call it whatever you want. Krishna's there, and he's giving everybody the intelligence how to progress. You see? And when you take shelter of that, this is my understanding, and it's subject to if somebody wants to correct it or add to it or whatever. But Krishna's there. He's trying. Krishna's in the heart as the super soul, and every moment of our lives, he's trying to give people the intelligence how to make progress towards coming towards him, depending upon where you're at, That's what he's trying to do. And yeah, and if somebody is fortunate and they go with that intelligence that comes from Krishna, that's taking shelter. That's placing faith in the Paramatma, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even you don't even know, you don't know, you're not even familiar with those concepts. So that's my understanding of how Krishna is helping even ordinary Joe or ordinary Sally, because Krishna is giving everybody, every person in the human body, Krishna is continually giving that person some opportunity to move towards him rather than away from him. And if people take advantage of that, they're going to be benefited. And like that. So I think I'll stop there. Does anybody have anything? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Maya is really strong. But okay. Well, first point I'd like to make in responding to your question is we're in a multiple life process. To be realistic and honest, we are in a multiple life process. I say us, I mean the soul. And not everybody, devotees included, although much more so, this holds true much more so for non-devotees, are not going to make it back to Godhead in this one lifetime. See? So, as far as devotees go, yeah, it is. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to be, to make advancement, to get onto the transcendental platform. Like we were hearing yesterday in Prabhupada's lecture, he was talking about raga bhakti. That's like, we're not. This is not no. It's a serious thing to try to advance in Krishna consciousness. You just have to be very, as Savas, one of his favorite words, conscientious. You have to be continually conscientious and vigilant, guarding against becoming offensive to other devotees or whatever. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge. But I mean, to say something positive, and I'll give 1 second because Nakatma is feeling inspired to say something more. But even, whatever advancement anybody makes, any devotees make, according to Krishna, it's never lost. So because you see sometimes, devotees leave, devotees this, that. Whatever advancement we make, it's never lost. And, keep trying. But it is a challenge. Yeah, Nakatma, you want to say something?
Thank you for a very nice class, Prabhu. Thank you very much. I really appreciated that question by Ajayananda Prabhu. And just to add to your answer, Maya is very difficult for everyone. Maya is difficult for the devotees, and although it may sound incomplete, is because we want Maya to be difficult. And let me clarify that. Because we're not totally detached. Maya has become very, very difficult for us. And even the pure devotee has to undergo some challenges, but they're not disturbed by it. They're above it. They work within it. But it disturbs those who are not on that purified platform. So in reality, we want Maya. Therefore, she's coming. We're inviting her. So even for the devotees, Maya is very difficult. And why? Because we want it. Our goal should be to become detached from it totally. And in that way, even in the liberated souls, although they may be experiencing some challenges in life, as we see even in the example of Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada was not disturbed by it. He's able to persevere in his devotional service and expand Krishna consciousness all over the world. And that's the example we have to take. Become detached from it. And even though Maya attacks, we don't see it as, oh my God, what happened? Why am I groveling in the dirt right now? Why am I struggling so hard? Hare Krishna.
Joy, thank you. Yep, microphone, please.
So, again, just adding to what Nakatma has so nicely described and explained. Maya comes to us because we still want some of the things that we have come into this world for. For example, we want to be enjoyers, like a supreme enjoyer. There's the supreme who's God. What does it feel like to be like God? So if I want to continue to enjoy, Maya is there to satisfy that propensity or that inclination. She's simply fulfilling what we want. We want to be an enjoyer. We want to be the knower. We want to show off our intellectual. We want to show how much we know. We want to let everybody know this, and they can admire us, look up to us, and think that we're brilliant and wonderful. Another form of lordship. So Maya is there to help us fulfill why we came into this world. So that's, as I said, knower and proprietor also. We want to own things. You have one car and two cars and one house and this. And as long as we want to keep, as long as we keep desiring to have these things, which we have come in to give us a sense of lordship, to give us a sense of controllership, to give us a sense of proprietorship, to make us feel that, yes, I'm a lord, I've made something of myself. Look at all those little nothings down there, these people, but look at me, look what I've achieved. I really have something. People look up to me. I have a name. This is all part of the lordship mentality. Now, as soon as the person realizes this is worthless, that it disappears. You're getting older. You can't enjoy as you wanted to. Even if you have so many houses, how many can you live in at one time? Only one at a time. And then when you get sick, you only go and live you can't even live in one. You live in the hospital. So therefore, as soon as the living entity comes to the realization that those things which he wanted to make him or enable him to feel like a lord are totally worthless and useless and can only give us more frustration and more misery and despair, as soon as that is realized and the person begins to give up those desires which we have to enable us to make us feel like a lord, Maya has no place to go anymore. Maya comes, like when there's need for water, the water comes rushing in. So Maya comes rushing in where there is a necessity in terms of the false desires that people have and to fulfill those desires. When you no longer want those things, you don't care for those things, then Maya is not there. And I'll give you an example of somebody I know. And this person has never had any desire to have lots of money. And when he has money, he simply thinks of money as he's a devotee, and I use it in the service of the Lord. So the Lord tests him, gives him more and more money. Is he going to use it for himself, or is he going to use it for God? So the more Prabhupada is a perfect example of this. The more he uses for the loving service of the Lord is seeing that no matter how much Maya he gives to him, lots of money, but he uses it in the loving service of God. So that's the whole point. The main point is that to have no desire for ourselves, but all desire for the pleasure of God. And so whether you have money, wealth, power, beauty, or all that, if all of that is always being used for the Lord, then Maya can have no effect. It can only have effect when you want to be God. Once that is given up, then where can Maya go? Just to find somebody else. That's basically the idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We had
You're
some
welcome.
other hands up. Granga praying, please. Thank you. Everybody, thank you for that. I like the questions and the comments. Thank you. Thank you.
Regarding Jayananda Prabhu's question, it reminds me the story of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, he was tested by Maya Devi personally. But, Haridas Thakur, he kept chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra because he's getting so much happiness from chanting this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra that Maya Devi is really insignificant to him, So in one sense, it is not Maya that's strong. It is because we are weak. We are not developing taste, in the practice of this, devotional service. So once we have developed the higher taste for the practice of this devotional service, then Maya will not affect us. But, the happiness from associating with Maya will be insignificant.
All right. One last comment, Prema Sankirtan, and then we will end.
So even if taste is available, in Prabhupada books, in everything what we are doing, still we are rejecting and we are keeping lower taste. So how to overcome that?
Yeah,
okay, even higher taste is available to us. That means, we have opportunity to do very nice services to Krishna. There is Prabhupada books is available to us. Chanting is available, everything. but still this higher taste doesn't work enough sometimes, and we still fall in a Maya. So how to deal with that to really get this higher taste? For me, look like you have to repeat, like intellectually, build your intelligence to imply this intelligence, what you get from Prabhupada books, and gradually work on that higher taste. Otherwise, if you don't work on that intellectually, you use your intelligence, you cannot do it. So
Would you like to
is it,
try
you can
answer?
say something else?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm sure it's a good question. My ears just didn't I couldn't quite get it. But did somebody understand the question and they could answer it?
Question. I repeat it again.
Did somebody,
get-
maybe,
Can I repeat?
did somebody understand it? Because did you understand it? Or, it looks like everybody's getting a bit restless here. Should we try one more time? Or? Okay. No, people are looking at their watch and everything. What should I do? Try. How to keep the taste?
Yeah, how to develop this taste, because even if this taste available to us, you get a little bit taste from chanting, from reading, from doing sankirtan, you still keep it this, Maya there, any kind of Maya, if where you find it, you keep it that. So how?
You got to persevere. Just to wrap it up, you got to persevere. Right here in Los Angeles, I know it came about 73, 74, up in that room, Prabhupada was talking, and there's a bunch of devotees in the room, and Vishnu John happened to be there, and he asked a similar question. He said, Prabhupada, how could a person who's absorbed in worldly things, and, because Prabhupada was saying how you should chant Hare Krishna, how could he chant Hare Krishna? His mind's always absorbed in this, that, and the other thing, right? So Prabhupada said, it's like a tug of war. It's like a tug of war. He said, the person has to keep chanting, persevere. And he said, if the person perseveres, then at some point, Maya will just back off. So I just wanted to add one last comment, and then we'll stop. Yeah. Thank you.
I think that something that's applicable to what he's saying is that we have to understand that Krishna consciousness is actually scientific. It's not sentimental. It's not a sentiment, or it's not something that you make a deal with Krishna. Okay, Krishna, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to expect that. That's not Krishna conscious devotional service. So, Prabhupada, when I read these, I see that Prabhupada says, Krishna conscious is scientific, which means it has a certain formula to it. If we follow the formula, then you'll actually get the result. It's like a scientist going in trying to find a vaccine for the virus. They keep working, hours, days, months, sometimes years, sometimes a lifetime trying to figure out this particular problem. So Krishna consciousness is a lifetime endeavor. It's a scientific process that if you do it right and you do it sincerely, you get purified. And then from that purification, you develop realizations. And those realizations is what you'll become happy with, ecstatic with, when you realize more and more about Krishna and his activities and the activities of a pure devotee. So it's formulated. Take prasadam only. Only eat that foodstuff offered to Krishna. Chant 16 rounds a day. Follow strictly the four regulative principles. Just that principle, just those things in itself creates purification. And other people may take longer than others. It's not the same. It's not like across the board. But it's according to how you follow the process. Scientifically, you get the result.
Thank you. Mantarad Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.